So here's your escrow analysis for the last year.
Go back and watch this video that I just stitched because it is the best representation of what an escrow analysis is when you buy a property and you have to have a mortgage. So an escrow analysis is when your lender goes back and says, okay, how much money did you pay this year? Did we have enough money in that little pot of escrow money to pay all the bills that we had to pay, your insurance, your property taxes? Without fail, they almost always underestimate. So they say, oh, you need to send us a check for, in this case, like $5,000. And you're like, but you told me that my payment was going to be this and that it was collecting enough money. And they're like, yeah, and okay, this is like, especially for first time home buyers, like pay attention. This is the bill that you don't want to get. You're gonna get it. You need to budget for it. And if you're working with a shitty lender who doesn't know how to, this is where it always gets screwed up, is the property taxes. They don't calculate your property taxes correctly, right? And they're collecting, a couple $100. Maybe it's based on what the property taxes were, presently, and they didn't do the analysis to increase the property value. And you've been underpaying your mortgage, which can do a lot of things. One, it's going to screw up your budget because you're like, okay, well, I was planning on paying, $3,000 a month all in. And then you get this bill a year later and now your payment's gone up $1,000 because they didn't know how to budget. There are ways that you can make sure that you're paying enough, like talk to your lender, work with a broker who actually can think outside the box and use their brain that's inside their head to calculate figures. The other thing is that if you're really genuinely concerned about the escrow account not having enough money, you can pay extra into your escrow account. I wouldn't recommend doing that because you can make more money doing it elsewhere. So if you're really concerned, you can pay money into your escrow account. When you go to pay your mortgage, you can specify pay extra to your escrow account. It's a stupid thing to do because you're not making any money. The bank is going to make money on that money, right? If you're concerned about the escrow account getting that bill next year saying we've reviewed your account and you're short, park that money in a savings account somewhere else where you're at least going to make, a couple percentage points, right? You can do that so you're not surprised by that bill. And you're like, well, how do I figure out how much I'm going to have to pay? Well, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Your county should have a property tax estimator. You can go in there and figure out what your annual taxes are, divide that number by 12, find out how much they're collecting in your escrow account and say, is this enough? If it's not enough, put money aside so you're not surprised by that bill next year. Because at the end of that video, they say, well, here's what you can do. You can pay this $5,000 by April 1st, or your payment's going to go up. Your payment's going to go up for two reasons. One is they're actually allocating the correct dollar amount towards the amount that needs to go to pay your taxes or your insurance, right? So let's say it was $500 a month that it should have been. You should have been paying $500 a month, all right? So they're going to collect and say, okay, you need to pay $500, but you also have that shortage from the year before. So they're going to tack that on in monthly installments. So you could see your payment go up a lot. So be aware, if you're buying property and this is the first time that you're using a mortgage, you're going to get that escrow analysis next year, and don't get caught unprepared.